Hello students, welcome back to Karthikeya NCERT modules. So we have already completed NCERT 6th class, Social Science, that is Polity, Social and Political Life, first topic, and 7th class, Social and Political Life, second book, and now we are going to complete the Social and Political Life, third book. So that is a textbook for class number 8th. So in this chapter, what the topics we are going to cover? So I'm just forwarding the topics and I just moving the next topics. Just this is forward, not important, right? So this is acknowledgement. No, this is also not important. Yes. Now these are the introductory note for teachers. So this is the 6th class we have already completed, and this is 7th class we have already completed, and this is 8th class now we are going to complete. So this is the third and final textbooks on social and political life. So these are the three important books for social and political life. So and this is the final book. So in this book, what are the things we are going to discuss? I'm just moving forward to the index of this textbook. That is the last page of this textbook. Right. So this is the content or index of the class number 8. So there are 5 units in this entire book. The first unit consists of 2 chapters. That is, the first chapter is the Indian Constitution, and second chapter is the Understanding Secularism. Unit number 2, that is Parliament and Making of Laws. So chapter 3 talks about why do we need a parliament? Why do we need a legislature? Parliament means central legislature. And chapter number 4, Understanding Laws. Unit number 3, that is Judiciary. Chapter 5, Judiciary. Chapter 6, Understanding our Criminal Justice System. So Unit 4, that is Understanding Marginalization. That is chapter 7. Chapter 8, Confronting Marginalization. And finally, unit number 5, that is economic presence of the government. So chapter 9, public facilities, and chapter 10, law and social justice. So these are the very important chapters, and generally when you see the syllabus also, these are the headlines somewhere you will identify, that is judiciary, law and social justice, and understanding of secularism. So these things definitely you will identify. Yes, my dear students, now we are going to move to the first chapter, that is the Indian Constitution. So unit 1, so this is the image they have mentioned, it's okay. So this is the teacher's notes. The first unit, there are 2 chapters, as I already said. The chapter 1 begins with a discussion on the principles that underline a liberal constitution. So that is, this chapter talks about what are the key features of the Indian Constitution, why the Constitutional Assembly members has written the Constitution, what is the objective of the Constitution. In this chapter it has been discussed. And the second chapter, that is discussion on secularism. So what is the most prevalent definition of the secularism is that, so this chapter uses the definition as the foundation and the proceedings to elucidate to so complicated ideas. So the main reason why the separation between the religion and the state is important, that is, the basic idea of secularism is nothing but the state should not, that is, the state will give equal support to all the religions, but the state does not have a separate religion. The first is to prevent the domination of one religion over the other. So when there is a majority group, will always try to show its domination on the minority religion. So in this chapter, the first thing, it is prevalent the domination of one religion over the another. The second, that is to oppose the various types of domination that can happen within the religion. So finally, the secularism opposition to the institutionalization or institutionalized religion means that is promotes freedom and equality between and within the religion. That is, in the secularism is the most important and key factor of the democratic governments or democratic constitution. So that we are going to discuss in this chapter. So chapter 1, that is Indian Constitution. So as we are going, so he is trying to explain an important thing about what is the meaning of constitutive rules. So he's trying to explain that with an example of football game. Right. So with the example of this football, so if you see that except goalkeeper, no one should touch the ball. If somebody has done it, it considers as a foul. So likewise in the government also, in the society, in the government, everybody has a distinctive rules, that is constitutive rules of the game. So in India, we have written the Indian Constitution. A written document in which we find such rules is called the Constitution. So we have looked about the Indian Constitution class 7th. He's trying to explain about the previous chapter. Just no need to worry. Why does a country need a constitution? Yes, my dear student. So every democratic country, generally democratic countries are likely to have a constitution, but it is not necessary that all the countries that have a constitution are democratic. That means the constitution is considered as a legal document which is trying to express the ideals of the people. That means the real power lies in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the representative. So, first of all, the constitution serves for several purposes. First, it lays out certain ideals that form the basis of the kind of country that we as a citizens aspire to live. So, he's trying to give an example about especially Nepal. The Nepal is a state initially, though it is a democratic country, but the real powers are in the hands of the king. In 1990s too and 2006, there is a drastic changes took place in Nepal, and finally the powers of deciding factor came to the hands of the people. So this is the things he explained in this topic. It's a very simple topic. You can read it. So let us understand what we mean by this through contracting situations in the recent history of Nepal. So, and the country. So, until recently, Nepal was a monarchy. It's a monarchy. The king has to decide everything. The chapters, the previous chapters of Nepal, which had been adopted in 1990, the previous constitution of Nepal, which had been adopted in 1990, reflected the fact that the final authority rested with the king. That is, the constitution says that king is hierarchy, so he will take the decisions. A people's movement in Nepal fought for several decades to establish democracy, and in 2006 they finally succeeded in putting an end to the powers of the king. So that is the real democratic nature of the country. That is in 2015 onwards, you can see this one. The second important purpose of the constitution is to define the nature of the country political system. So that is, in every person under this, every person has the right to vote, and they have the political power. They have the right to contest in elections also. So in a democracy, we choose our leaders so that they can exercise powers responsibility on behalf of it. However, there is always the possibility that these leaders might misuse their authority, and the constitution usually provides safeguards against this. See, he's trying to explain one example. See, so when a teacher is going outside, the authority of the classroom has given to this person, and he's trying to misuse the power by putting some allegations on the student, and when the teacher returned to the class and he is talking against to him, and the teacher has punished him with writing up more than 100 times. So likewise, he's trying to explain if consider this is a minister, if the government has given power to him, if the minister is trying to misuse this power, what would be the result? That was also explained in this example. So right, my dear students. So the constitution often lays down that rules that the guard against the misuse of the authority by our political leaders. So how the Indian constitution guarantees the rights of equality to all the persons and says that no citizen can be discriminated against on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, etc. So this is an important, this you have to read, and this is also you have to just identify. Right? Next one we are going to move. So here also is trying to give an example. What is the effect of dominating group? Let us say there is a school is there. Now the boys wanted to play cricket and the girls wanted to play football. But when they wanted to come to a decision, now the students saying that now the teachers decide to settle the problem with a show of hands. That is based on the majority. Obviously boys are more and girls are less. So the teacher used to decide, so based on the majority, the boys has a right to play the cricket. So the same thing which is also happening in India, that is majority of the group like Hindus or other community, they are deciding the fate of the minority communities. So that is what he explained in these lines. So such unhealthy situations can occur in a democratic society too, where a majority can continuously enforce decisions that exclude minorities and go against their interest. The constitution usually contains rules that ensure that minorities are not excluded from anything that is routinely available to the country. So right students, it's a very simple topic but very very important topic. So the remaining also we are going to do like this only. Now, so this is a normal thing. This is another example where, let's say the school, one girl is there. She has an exam in the next day. She has an exam, but she has left with the 2 chapters. But she wanted to watch the TV, and the family members are watching TV. Initially, she wanted to watch the TV, but she believed that if she watched the TV, she would have chances to lose the 2 chapters. Now the family member decided not to watch the TV. So this is one kind of example where if there is a group is trying to utilize such opportunity, even the majority group has to support this to this small group. So that is the same example they have mentioned here, right? So the Indian Constitution key element. This is very 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 important, indeed, because so in the syllabus we have different types of features of it, and what are the key elements or key features of the Indian Constitution or the salient features of the Indian Constitution. So here he is trying to explain about the British rule versus the independence. So the British rule for several decades. During the freedom struggle, the nationalists believed that under the British rule, they had forced to obey the rules that they had very little role in making. So they have convinced, that is, colonial state convinced the Indians that free India should be a democracy in which everyone should be treated equally and be allowed to participate in the government. That is why, so the most important thing they have written that everyone who has completed the age of 18, they should have right to vote. That is called universal adult franchise. So the members of Constituent Assembly, there is more than 300 members, they have strictly believed that everybody should have the right to speak, right to religion. So they have the right to vote in the elections also. But there is a small situation happened, or turmoil, you can say, that the partition of country into India and Pakistan was imminent. Some of the princely states remained undecided about the future. Now the Constituent Assembly has taken very serious care about the situations, and they drafted the Indian Constitution with very 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 careful. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is also known as father of Indian Constitution. So he is the most important key role for giving or providing safeguards to the scheduled caste in the Constitution. So that you can read here. Then so what are the key features? Now I'm going to tell you like this. First one, federalism. What is meant by federal? Federal means, so the word federalism originated from the word called fidus. Fidus is nothing but a mutual agreement between the two parties. So India, you can see that there are government systems are like this. One is central government, second state government, and third level is Panchayat Raj institutions. But if you see the 7th schedule, we have 12 schedules in the Constitution. The 7th schedule talks about the central provisions, central list, state list, and concurrent list. So under federalism, this is the most important factor. The sharing of powers between the central government and state government has been explained in this one. So this is very 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 important. Definitely you can expect one prelims questions and one mains question. I'm also going to give you the answer sheets about the federalism. So there are important keywords: federalism, quasi-federalism, competitive federalism, and cooperative federalism. These are the key important words that I'm going to discuss in the classroom. Under federalism, the states are not merely agents of federal government, but draw their authority from the Constitution as well. Right? This is the first one. The second is parliamentary form of government. Yes, my dear student, there are two types of forms of government. One is presidential form of government, and second is parliamentary form of government. In presidential form of government, the decisions will be taken by the president only, and who is a monarch in nature. Like USA is a presidential form of government, and it is very difficult to remove or impeach the president by the legislature. But whereas the parliamentary form of government, the executives are regulated by the legislature. That is, the executives are responsible to the legislature. Whenever executives are overreaching their power, then the legislature will try to control them. So that is the parliamentary form of government. So parliamentary form of government is democratic form of government. Right, so this is the same thing they have explained about universal adult franchising. And third one, separation of power. So key factors, first one federalism, and second one I have mentioned here, that is parliamentary form of government, and third one separation of powers. Very simple. According to the constitution, three organs of the government: legislature, executive, judiciary. And legislature, executive, judiciary have been watermark separated. That is, no one will trying to overreach the powers of the other body, so they are strictly separated. The judiciary, for example, the legislature which enact the laws, the executive which enforce the laws, and judiciary which adjudicate the laws, that is whether the law has been done as per the constitution or not, will take care of it. So that is called separation of powers. And fourth one, fundamental rights, very very important. So the concept of fundamental rights we have borrowed from USA Constitution. So there are, the set of fundamental rights was mentioned in part 3. The set of fundamental rights, it was mentioned in part 3 of the Constitution. So part 3 from article 12 to 35. From article 12 to 35. So these are the fundamental rights they have mentioned here. So what is this? First one, right to equality. So right to equality, if you say that article 14 to article 18, it talks about right to equality. Then right to freedom. So right to equality, right to freedom, it talks about article 19, right to freedoms. So article 19 to 22. Then article 19, so 20, 21, right against exploitation. So it's 23. One second, this is what? Right. So that is right to freedom. Then right against exploitation, article 23 to 24. Then right to freedom of religion, 25 to 28. And the cultural and educational rights of minority, 29 and 30. And finally, right to constitutional remedies, article 32. So these very important chapters, sir. In the constitution, we are going to discuss about this chapter. And there are three important topics: fundamental rights, the first chapter, very important, and directive principle of state policy and fundamental duties. Right, and the fifth one, secularism. Yes. The secularism, what is meant by secularism? So India is a secular country. That is, the state has not a particular state religion. The state will give importance to all the religions equally, but does not support only single religions as a state religion. That is the object, that is a major definition of secularism. Secular. Right, sir? So these are the 5 important key elements of the Indian Constitution. There are different features of the Indian Constitution also we are going to discuss. And this is also another important point is fundamental duties. As per 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. So 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. So 1976 by Dr. Indira Gandhi government, the concept of fundamental duties were adopted into Constitution. So the 42nd Amendment Act 1976, based on the recommendation of Swaran Singh Committee, so 10 fundamental duties were adopted. Again by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002, this 11th duty was also added. So finally we have total 11 duties in the Constitution. So right, my dear students, so this is the first chapter that you have to understood, and very important chapter. So the provisions we are going to discuss in the classroom, and he has given some exercises. So just read it, you will identify very easily. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.